Source: The Eminence in Shadow. Welcome back to AniRecaps. Like and subscribe so you never miss our quality uploads. The story starts with a girl waking up in the morning and taking a shower. After that, she gets prepared for school. There, she is greeted by most students. However, she sees the one she despises, Kagano. She greets him and he greets her back, but calls her Nishimura. She tells MC that her name isn't Nishimura. MC apologizes, stating he was pretty good at remembering named NPCs, but lately haven't got much sleep, and calls her Nishitani. She gets annoyed and corrects him, revealing her actual name, but MC again gets it wrong and calls her Nishimura as he leaves. Akane notes that she doesn't despise him for getting her name wrong, but for never looking at her, and even when his eyes are facing her direction, they seem to be looking at a somewhere far-off place. When Akane was in middle school, she had to take a break from show business due to a scandal. Since then, she has been hiding behind a mask. She plays the teacher's pet so that the teachers like her. She also plays the role of the popular girl so that every student in the school like her. After school, she calls her driver, but he doesn't pick up, as he was attacked by some men. Since he didn't come to pick her up, Akane is forced to head home walking, which is her first time doing since the incident after middle school. On her way, she is kidnapped by the men that beat the driver. While she loses consciousness, she sees MC in the shadows. Later, Akane wakes up tied in some warehouse. The kidnapper tells her, the daughter of Nishino Zaibatsu shouldn't walk alone at night. The other kidnapper then tells her she just needs to stay still, and once they get the ransom, she will be freed. Outside, MC observes the kidnapper and changes his clothes. He also puts on a mask. A kidnapper wants to have some fun with her and notes how this should be her second kidnapping and that the first time was some stalker. MC then comes down from the roof window, saying he is the stylish whatever slayer. The kidnapper pulls out a gun, but MC throws a piece of glass, injuring his arm and disarming him. He then charges the guy and throws him to the ground and smashes his face. The other kidnapper sees that MC isn't an ordinary man and states he was bored doing those kidnappings with amateurs. He notes he is a former military and takes out a knife. Then, using crowbars, MC manages to disarm the man, but still gets overwhelmed. He then decides to get serious and show him the potential he found in crowbars when he fought bikers. The man then realizes he is Balaclava Berserker, a man who has been fighting the bikers with crowbars. MC notes that the bikers started wearing helmets, so he had to stop using the crowbars like tonfa and instead use them as regular clubs. MC then proceeds to destroy him by breaking his legs and beats him up. He then frees Akane and tells her to be more careful next time. Akane then calls the police and her father uses his connections to make the case not go public. The next day, Akane goes to school. She sees Kagano and greets him, and he greets her back, calling her Nishino. She is ready to correct him, but realizes he got her name right, and this time feels he is looking at her. She then felt he is also living a life behind a mask. The next morning, the news reported that Minoru Kagano got hit by a truck and didn't survive. Kagano doesn't remember since when, but he always dreamt of being a hero. He spent his days in training, while at school he was a background character. He reached a point where he can beat up some guys, but when surrounded by armed men, he doesn't stand a chance. If he becomes the best martial artist in the world, he may be able to beat those men too, but he still won't be able to do anything about a missile. Kagano wants to overcome those limits. After being hit by a truck, Kagano is reborn in a new world. He forms an organization, and with his squad, they are about to start an operation. He also had obtained a new power, magic. Kagano wants to be the one who operates from the shadows, showing everyone their greatness, the eminence in shadow. Alpha reports to Sid, telling him that everything he said is true and that she found mentions in ancient texts of what they believe is the cult of Diablos. After dying in a car incident, Minoru Kagano gets reborn as the son of Baron Kagano, an aristocrat living out in the boonies. He quickly understands the situation and feels there is magic in the air. The Kagano family has been making dark knights who can enhance their abilities using magic. The family has big hopes for Claire Kagano. She is our MC's older sister, who is quite talented. MC grows up staying as a background character and doesn't draw any attention to him. However, at night he comes out and fights bandits.
I need more power.
Using his slime sword, he easily kills the bandits while having fun and took their gold. He then finds a cage with a weird-looking rotting creature. He realizes that it's possession magic, and the magical output of that creature is overloaded. He takes interest in it and takes it home, where he shoots it with magic and does other experiments on it. After a month, he finally manages to contain the magical overload. The creature then returns to its normal form, a young, beautiful elf. Wondering what to do, Sid decides to put on an act. As the elf awakens, Sid states he broke her curse that has been put on Hero's descendants. He shows her a fiction book about 3 heroes who defeated Diablos and tells her it's actually a true story, and in his dying breath, the demon put a curse on them. He then explains that the cult of Diablos are plotting to revive the demon. While most people had forgotten about Diablos, Sid works in the shadows to stop the cult. He introduces himself as Shadow, he who lurks in the shadow and hunts the shadows. Sid asks her if she would join him, and since having lost everything, she agrees. She then goes on saying how they need to find more hero descendants to expand their organization. Sid agrees with the flow, understanding zero shit, and names their organization the Shadow Garden. He also names the blonde girl, Alpha. Fast forwarding a bit, 3 years have already passed, and Sid is now 13 years old. He practices with his sister, and while he can defeat her easily, he acts weak and lets her defeat him. Claire is now 15 years old, and at that age, the nobles start attending the Midgar Academy for Dark Knights. On the day Claire had to departure for the academy, she disappeared and her room is a mess. In those 3 years, Alpha had collected more members for their organization. Sid asks Beta where is Alpha, and Beta explains she is looking for clues to finding Claire. Beta explains that Claire is likely still alive and was kidnapped by a high-ranking member belonging to the cult of Diablos. The cult probably believes that Claire is one of the hero's descendants. Beta takes out a map and states they have few known hideouts, but don't know in which one they keep Claire. Sid makes a slime knife and throws it at the map. He ends up missing the hideout, but states they will find his sister there. Beta then figures out that the cryptograms are a bluff, and there is actually a secret hideout at the location pointed out by Sid. He then tells her to contact the 7 Shadows. At the hideout, Viscount Grease is holding Claire chained with magic sealing chains. He comments her father taught her good on how to fight, but Claire explains she learned all by fighting her brother. Grease then asks if he healed her when she showed signs of possession, but Claire denies it, stating there is no way he can heal her. Grease notes that for just in case, they need to look into her brother too. In that moment, Claire breaks one of the chains and injures her right arm to free herself. She threatens to kill him and his family if they ever touch her brother. Grease then knocks her out. Then a man comes informing him there has been a break-in. Grease's men are easily cut to pieces by the 7 Shadows. Facing them, Alpha states they are Shadow Garden. Their mission is to annihilate the cult of Diablos. Grease wonders how they know about it, since it's secretly hidden from the world. He attacks Alpha, but she gets injured while blocking his attacks. She states how they won't kill him until they get answers from him. Seeing he is overwhelmed, Grease takes a pill to boost his magic. He manages to push away Alpha and then breaks the floor to run. Alpha then tells the girls there is no need to chase him, as Shadow is after him, which is why they split up. Meanwhile, MC is lost and reacts all dumb, saying he doesn't know where the girls went. While walking around the tunnels, he encounters Grease. Noticing our MC, he attacks him right away, but MC easily blocks his attack. MC says how he has more magic power than Alpha, but doesn't know how to use it. He carefreely gives him few lessons. As he is done, MC gets serious and starts cutting him, causing Grease to wonder if he ever was that overwhelmed in battle before. He tells MC no matter how strong he is, the darkness in the world is much deeper. But MC acts badass by saying he will just dive deeper. Grease takes more pills and buffs himself even more, wanting to show MC that people are worthless, fragile, and powerless. MC manages to block his attacks, and then using large amount of magic, he cuts down Grease. As Grease falls, he notes he was powerless against the darkness, but maybe not Shadow. The next day, Claire returns home in a bad mood. Her wounds heal overnight and she departures for the academy. Sid is eager to go to the academy himself, but if fine as he has 2 more years and needs to give the girls some work. However, Alpha tells him it's time they leave him, which leaves him shocked. Alpha told Sid that Cult of Diablos is an enormous organization that runs on a global scale, so in order to fight it, they needed to split up and expand their territory. Sid feels that's just a nice way of they telling him that they are now grown up, want their freedom, and don't want to continue playing this fighting the cult game. When Sid turns 15, he enrolls in the same school as his sister in the royal capital of Midgar Kingdom. 7 months into his academy life, Sid continues to live as a background character and made friends with Skell Edel and Po Tato, other bottom-of-the-pile nobles like him. While heading to school, Skell and Po remind Sid that as he scored the worst on the test, his penalty is to confess to the most sought-after girl in school and suffer her rejection. Arriving at school, they see the girl in question, Princess Alexia Midgar, who rejects another guy's confession. However, Sid is excited about it, wanting to experience such confession as a background character. That evening, he goes to confess to Alexia by acting all cringe and muttery. He feels he has done a great job as a background character on the confession. However, to his surprise, she accepts, stating she was actually waiting for someone like him. The rumors quickly spread and people start to wonder who is Sid and what's so great about him. They wonder why she accepted a guy like him. Skell and Po wonder if they also had a chance since MC is like them. She then joins them at lunch, which surprises other students as that's the lower nobility section. She gets served lots of food and comments she can't eat it all. MC then gladly starts eating her food in an attempt to make her dump him. She heard that he is studying royal bushin fencing and wants to practice together. Sid states he is in the lowest sections, but Alexia explains she put a good word for him and she got him in Section 1. Later, Sid joins Section 1 team, where their advisor is Zenon Griffey, the official royal fencing instructor. Sid practices with Alexia and notices that her attacks never land. She is slow and doesn't use much magic, but realizes it's because the practice is to review their strokes and counterstrokes. While he finds her technique good, he thinks it's bland. After the practice, Alexia states he has good fencing style, but hates it as it feels like she is looking at herself. Alexia tells Zenon that she is Sid's girlfriend now, who tells her that won't change the fact that she is betrothed to him, even if it's still a public secret. Sid then realizes what is going on. After that, Sid asks Alexia if she just wanted someone to help her get out of the engagement with Zenon, and chose a low-class aristocrat, who she could easily control. As she confirms, Sid states he doesn't want more attention and isn't interested in being mixed up in her problems. Alexia tells him that's a bit cold of him, as she knows he fake confessed her, since his friends easily told her everything. She tells him if the student body learns she toyed with her heart, they'll pretty much kill him. She wants to continue the boyfriend act until Zenon gives up. MC notes that he may not give up as it's clear he is out of her league. She understands but still wants some time. Then she will deal with it somehow. Alexia takes out and throws a gold coin. Staring at it, Sid asks her if he looks like a type that can be brought. Alexia confirms and so does Sid. As she throws another coin, he jumps and gets it with his mouth while acting like a dog. Sid notes that his parents' allowance isn't enough to carry his eminence in shadow operation and can't let this chance slip up. Sid decides to continue being her boyfriend and is glad that students can now focus on she having a boyfriend, not him, which lets him being the background boyfriend character. In public, Alexia is prudent, but behind the scenes, she constantly badmouths Zenon. Sid decides to not argue with her and just agrees to everything she says. Sid wonders what is so bad about Zenon, and she states it's easy to pretend to be nice. She also judges people by their flaws. Zenon doesn't have any, which is not normal for a human. While riding a train, Alexia tells Sid that he has the fencing basics, but nothing more than that. Yet she can't take her eyes off MC. MC wonders what's with her today as her fencing was unusually sloppy. The lover girl reveals that she always wanted to be as good as her sister, but she didn't have what her sister had and always solo hard-worked. They ended up calling Alexia the fencing ordinaire. It's unfortunate that MC fencing is ordinary like hers. MC states he doesn't find it unfortunate and likes her fencing. Alexia reveals her sister told her the same thing after she suffered a humiliating defeat at Bushin Festival. But her sister couldn't understand how pathetic Alexia was feeling. Sid explains that he isn't a great person and wouldn't care if someone kills 1,000,000 people, as there are things that people find worthless. To him, they are the most precious things in life he can have, which is why he likes her fencing style. Alexia draws her sword and asks him what he means by that. Sid states he gets pissed off when people diss the things he likes. The train stops and Alexia leaves, telling Sid goodbye. He guesses how this is finally the end of his unwanted relationship. Skell and Poe then come to apologize to Sid for telling everything, as Alexia threatened them. They wonder how far he got with her while dating her for 2 weeks. Sid states he didn't get anywhere, which annoys them as they state they would have gone all the way deep. The next day at the school gate, Zenon and 2 other men stop Sid and his friends. Zenon states Sid should know that Alexia didn't return to her dorm last night and they are investigating it as a potential kidnapping. And since Sid was the last person seen with her, he is their main suspect. He stays all silent and feels dumb. As he sees more knights surround him, Sid surrenders and realizes how he got mixed up in a troublesome situation. Alexia wakes up chained in a cell. She notices a humanoid monster next to her cell. A man then shows up, excited to get the so-called royal blood from her. She questions what is he going to be doing with her blood, and the man states they will revive demons in the modern world. Meanwhile, Sid is being beaten since they took him as a fake prisoner. He gets excited as he finds this as a classic minor character interrogation, and he goes with the act properly so they don't outshine him. He starts yelling that he doesn't know anything to continue his act, which satisfied him a lot. Later, Zenon meets with Iris and states he feels responsible for Alexia's kidnapping and should take action. Iris wonders if Sid could have really kidnapped her. Zenon states there are evidences, but with his skill level, he shouldn't have been able to kidnap Alexia. She then feels regretful that she couldn't do much as her big sister. After that, since it's been already 5 days, they decide to release him. But on his way, they send spies to keep track of him. As he leaves the train, Alpha shows up and takes care of those men, and Sid goes home safely like a background character. Alpha shows up from the window in a dazzling way and explains how their organization is growing. They also have been gaining more information about the cult. Sid notes to himself that the girls are visiting him from time to time and living normal lives, but he is happy that they still play his game and visit him. Alpha explains that Alexia was kidnapped by the cult due to her blood, and they are investigating it. She asks him if he wants her to dispose of those rowdy knights that interrogated him. Sid says they were just doing their job as a knight. Before leaving, Alpha also tells him that Delta is here and she has been missing him. Sid then sets his eminence in Shadow Room, where he takes out an expensive wine, masterpiece paintings, an antique lamp, and lots of other stuff. He then drinks wine while waiting. A bit later, Beta shows up. He tells her the time has come. Beta gets excited upon hearing those cringy words. She explains they are ready and under Alpha's orders. They have gathered all available personnel in the capital. It's about 114 girls. Hearing that number surprises Sid. Beta explains that they plan to launch simultaneous attacks on all sect hideouts. As she explains the girl roles, Sid stops her, giving her a letter and stating that he will be taking Delta's spot. Sid leaves his place, and the 2 knights that interrogated him wait for him and throw him Alexia's boot to frame him and kill him. Sid then drops the bodies of the 2 men that were following him. He then proceeds to massacre those knights while laughing. Beta is seen around the corner noting his words. The Shadow Garden then start their attack. The doctor rushes to Alexia, stating that they are coming. She tries to tell him that the knights don't kill without a reason, but he didn't seem to be afraid of the knights. He tells her how he made a prototype and it should work even on a failed result as the one next to Alexia's room. As he injects the disfigured creature, it becomes much larger and stronger, and then instantly kills the man. But to Alexia's surprise, the monster suddenly cuts her chains, which freed her from imprisonment. A few minutes later, after picking up a sword, Alexia looks for an exit. He encounters Zenon, who explains that this is his facility, and that he was funding the doctors to run this hideous research. She was actually relieved hearing that, as she always felt he isn't right in the head. Zenon explains that with her blood in his research, he will be guaranteed the 12th seat in the Knights of the Rounds, the highest-ranking knights in the order. He disses her, saying how she is weaker than her sister, which infuriated her. Alexia then attacks him, but she is no match for Zenon. He easily disarms her by countering. Sid then appears and introduces himself as Shadow. As Shadow introduces himself, Zenon recognizes him as the one that has been going after the cult, but notes he is a coward as he has been targeting only bases without the cult's core members. He is now facing the core member of future 12th seats. As Zenon attacks MC, he moves behind him, placing himself between Zenon and Alexia, and mocks Zenon, asking him where is this core member he spoke of. The monster had escaped above ground. After evacuating the citizens, the knight faces it, but their attacks are ineffective as the monster just heals. Iris comes and inflicts a more serious wound on the monster, but it heals that too. She decides to get more serious and cuts the monster's arm. However, the monster easily regenerates it. Seeing that, Iris decides to cut it into small pieces so that it won't be able to regenerate. After inflicting several wounds, Alpha comes and states she is just making her suffer. Alpha states she knows the monster's pain and suffering, so she will put an end to it. Alpha then attacks the monster, curing it and returning it to her original human form, a young girl. Alpha sees a pendant on her, revealing that she is Milia, Grease's daughter. Alpha then tells Iris that they are Shadow Garden and she should just stay back and enjoy the show as they deal with this situation. Zenon decides to get more serious and uses more magical power, but is still easily overwhelmed by Shadow. Zenon gets angry and continues to attack Shadow, who easily blocks his attacks. Seeing the fight, Alexia is amazed by Shadow and sees that at its core, his sword play is ordinary. It's like her ideal sword play she dreamed of when she was young. However, she could never become stronger or equally strong as her sister. Shadow slashes Zenon, who gets angry and asks him why is he hiding his identity if he is that strong. Shadow states they are Shadow Garden and they hunt in the shadows, which is the sole purpose of their existence. Annoyed, Zenon takes out some red pills and explains that by taking them he will awaken a new nature beyond human limitations, and if an ordinary person takes them, he will be overwhelmed by their tremendous power and die. Zenon then takes the pills and transforms, stating he is the third awakened. Having far more destructive power than before, Zenon attacks Shadow. However, he easily blocks him once again. As Shadow overwhelms Zenon, he tells him that there is no road to almightiness if you use borrowed power. He then sets a magic circle around Zenon, which surprises him with how powerful it is. Shadow states there once was a man who wanted to withstand a nuclear bomb. The man then developed his muscles, honed his mind, and perfected his skills. However, there were still heights he could not attain. In time, Shadow realized that if he don't want to be vaporized by a nuclear bomb, he needs to become nuclear himself. Zenon thinks he is crazy and tries slashing him, but his sword breaks as it hits Shadow. Shadow then tells him to witness his almightiness as he uses his almighty power. He then chants, "I am atomic." A huge explosion then occurs, leaving a large crater in the middle of the city. Alexia finds herself unharmed in the middle of the crater. He picks a sword and starts practicing her fencing. Iris sees her and comes down, hugging her and states she is glad that she is alive. Sometime after that, Alexia returns to school and she tells Sid what actually happened. She thanks him for liking her fencing and tells him that she also finally learned to like it. They were pretending to be a couple, but now Zenon is dead. Alexia wonders if Sid wants to keep the relationship going, but Sid refuses. That shocks Alexia, who then attacks him. The spot they talked get known as people found a large amount of blood there, but no bodies or missing people were found or reported. As a result, in time, the case got known as one of the school's 7 mysteries, the bodiless murder. The Shadow Garden girls are excited about how powerful Shadow is and how all of their enemies will one day vanish from his light, just like Zenon. They have a report from Zeta, who found the target and will be investigating. Ida's research is also going smoothly. However, they have one issue. Someone has been pretending to be from Shadow Garden and delivering justice. They are covering their tracks well, but Gamma is sure they will catch them. Iris now knows about the cult and Shadow Garden. She knows that Zenon was adherent to the cult and because of that, she doesn't trust the Knight's order. She trusts Glenn and Marco and decides to form a new investigation team with them. Iris reveals they have found an item, but Nika finds someone who can decipher its functions. Meanwhile, while reading and carrying books, Sherry Barnett bumps into Sid, who is covered in blood from Alexia's attack. Skell and Pio wonder how things went with Alexia, and if Sid got at least a kiss. However, Sid tells them that they broke up and haven't done anything. Disappointed, Skell tells him that he knows a place that sells all kinds of good stuff, including something called chocolate, which they can use to give to girls and win them. As Skell and Pio are too excited, Sid accepts, as he is also curious to see what this world calls chocolate. Iris shows an artifact they found in the hideout of the cult. However, as they can't decipher it, she asks Sherry Barnett, the most brilliant mind in the kingdom, if she can decipher it. Her father, Lutheran, encourages Sherry to do it. Sherry accepts and Iris decides to assign the Crimson Order to keep watch on them. Lutheran hears that's the new Night Order that Iris formed, and Iris confirms, and that it's a small order, but it is made by people she trusts. Alexia also wishes to help and Iris accepts. Sid, Skell, and Pio go to the store, but the line is so big that they have to wait 80 minutes for their turns. Pio is worried as there is a killer going around at night. Sid tries to ask about the killer, but then a worker from the store asks Sid if he can come with her and answer some survey. As Sid enters the store, he feels it's like a department store from his old world, as there are many things that remind him of his world that he hasn't seen elsewhere in this world. Sid is eventually taken to a throne room in a house above the store building. Sid then sees Gamma next to the throne and figures it in her store. She confirms and states she recreated it from the wisdom Sid shared with them. Sid recalls telling the girls random stuff and notes that Gamma was the smartest among the girls, but also lacks athleticism. In that moment, Gamma ends up falling the stairs. Gamma invites Sid to sit on the throne, and as he sits, he feels like a king. He congratulates her and creates something like fireworks as her reward, which excites her as the light reminds her of the light he used to save her. Sid guesses she is making money and Gamma confirms, stating she has several franchises around the cities and that they even use mail orders for remote areas. She shows him she has 1 million zeni at her immediate disposal. Hearing that, Sid is shocked. Gamma guesses Sid game due to the incidents, and the killer states he is from Shadow Garden. They are investigating him already and promise Sid that they will put an end to his deeds. Sid had no idea, but decides to play along and states he has some idea who it may be as he recalls his incident with Alexia. Gamma introduces Nu, their newest member of the Numbers, and explains that Alpha acknowledged her skill. Sid tells her that he will call her if he needs her. He even tells Gamma that he wants to purchase 3 chocolate of the cheapest, but Gamma states she will give him chocolate for free from the highest quality. Sid gets happy, and while laughing with Gamma, he also steals 1 coin. Sid and his friends then rush heading home. Sid guesses that Alexia went crazy and started killing people. Hearing something, he stops and tells his friends that he needs to poop right away and tells them to go before they see him shit himself. Skell and Pio believe that is very manly and state they won't forget him and will never tell anyone about it. Sid then goes into the back alley where he heard Alexia fighting, but is surprised to see her fighting some men who claim to be from Shadow Garden. They manage to injure her, but Sid shows up as Shadow and kills one of the men and tells the others that they will also pay for impersonating Shadow Garden. The men run and Alexia asks Shadow why is he fighting, but he tells her to stay out of it. Shadow follows the men and kills one of them. Nu then shows up and congratulates Shadow on finding them that fast and requests that he leaves the rest to her, as she will get information from the remaining man. Shadow agrees and leaves. Nu then cuts the man's arm, disarming him. He states she isn't as forgiving as Shadow. Elsewhere, a man informs a knight that he lost contact with the puppets. The knight states it's fine as they located the item they need, and their priority is retrieving it. Alexia tells Iris that the killer was impersonating Shadow Garden. Alexia adds that Shadow is fighting the cult, and Iris hopes that they will learn something more when the artifact gets deciphered. Alexia then asks her who she thinks is the real enemy, Shadow Garden or the cult. Iris states it's both and that she won't allow anyone to wreak havoc in the kingdom. The next day on the train for school, rumors spread that Sid had shit his pants. Skell and Pio are nervous and ask Sid if he got the chocolate from yesterday. At school, Skell gives chocolate to an upper-class woman, but the person she is engaged to shows up and catches Skell. He then takes him somewhere to beat him up. Poe and MC leave silently as they don't want to follow in Skell's footsteps and die like him. Later, as MC's other friend approaches a random girl, she recognizes him as her stalker and yells. Sid decides to give his chocolate to the first girl he sees and be over with his background character moment. Sherry then sits next to him, and he decides to randomly give her the chocolate and leaves like a perfect background character. Sherry recognizes Sid from the other day. Later in her room, she wonders what is the chocolate for. Her father then comes in and recognizes it's chocolate and explains how it's been popular lately. Sherry tells him that a boy gave it to her and her father guesses it's a present and it must have been love at first sight. He wonders what she will tell him as he must be waiting for an answer. He also tells her that study and research are important, but she also needs to learn how to interact with others. He starts to caught, but states he has been feeling better lately and is lucky to have such a good daughter. Sherry states she is the lucky one as he adopted her. With this, we end our video. Stay tuned for the next part and watch our other quality contents. Stay safe. Bye.